Okay, is the audio good? Just... the audio... I'll just type that in chat. And, I guess if you're receptive enough... Well, okay. If you just, like, want to engage with the, production quality of the stream, you know, just shoot me a comment, you know, shoot me a chat saying if the audio quality is good or not, and, you know, I'll try my best to improve things. So, we were supposed to be talking to a, hold on. So, we were supposed to be talking to a red pillar today, but, we actually ended up just, you know, having so many delays after delays after delays. So now, what I want to do is, until he gets here, well, I guess we'll just react to more, you know, Tate stuff and, you know, red pill adjacent crap. So, here's a red pill compilation. Red pill compilation number 74. Here we go. So, there we go.
I'm so happy and thankful that you're the type of man that wants to work hard so that I don't have to. She said those words to me, and like, bro, I melted. I was like, oh my god, that's like music, bro.
Yeah.
That's the best thing I've ever heard in my whole life. I was like, you have no idea how many girls would say the absolute opposite, that they would never admit something like that, or they just wouldn't feel like that. They want to do their own thing.
I love the...
Yeah, I guess I agree. Most women would generally just, you know, want some of their own autonomy, their own career. You know, in terms of how women have sort of gained their own economic rights, economic autonomy over time, I do think most women would prefer if they had some sort of financial leverage in a relationship. Because if you are a woman who just stays at home all day, you know, let's say it's just the traditional nuclear family arrangement, you have zero leverage against your man whatsoever. And I don't know, it's just going to come down to a basic difference of philosophy, but I find that dynamic highly susceptible to coercion, in a way, as I'm going to put it. It just rubs me the wrong way. Rubs me the wrong way, man. He says he'll be here shortly, so...
He's like, yeah, pursue your hobbies and things you're
Oh, this is the PragerU girl.
actually interested in and passionate about. But when we have kids, I would love if you stayed home with the kids. And she's like, heck yeah, I'll stay home with the kids. Are you kidding? Yeah, you go and do the work and I'll do that. What a great video. Let's read the comments. The number one comment is, this is such a red flag. What?
Yeah. It is a red flag. Because if this guy exclusively wants all the financial leverage in the relationship, like, okay, obviously courts are going to be more susceptible to give him custody. He's going to be able to control literally every aspect of the finances, i.e. what she buys. He's going to be able to control where she goes. He's going to be able to control her housing because, I mean, I'm assuming, has the down payment on the mortgage, right? It has the down payment on the cars as well, as we've seen in this Crowder situation. So, I don't know what this is, man. Like, I don't know what this... Not driving. That's the music. Sorry. Was just, you know, focused on the music a bit. So, I don't know what this whole concern about, you know, wanting a highly sycophantic and subservient trad wife woman. It just rubs me the wrong way. It really does.
What? And 15,500 people said, yep, that is a total red flag.
I agree.
The fact that a man wants to go work as hard as he can to provide for you and your children while you stay home and just take care of the household, that's a red flag to you?
Yes, because, okay, if he has literally all the leverage in a relationship, especially financially, if I'm a woman in that sort of traditional arrangement, if something goes awry, what does that spell out for me? I am capital F, capital U, capital C, capital K, capital E, capital D. I probably misspelled that, but you get my drift. Fucked. I don't want to be in a situation where he has 100% of the advantage against me. I'm sorry, but that just rubs me the wrong way. It just does. Okay, let's...
Gentlemen, the time for us to honor the order of equality has come. The days of treating people differently because of their genders are over. Shawty is a strong, independent woman. She don't need no man. She can open up her own doors.
This is kind of like satirically worded, but, you know, at the same time, sort of genuine in its politics.
Change your own tires, pay your own bills. Next time you sit in a packed out waiting room and a woman walks in looking for an empty seat, don't even think about giving up yours. Those legs she's standing on are strong.
Oh, I know, it is red pill nonsense, yeah.
Independent woman legs. You offering her your seat will only offend her. Next time you see a woman carrying something heavy by herself, walk up to her and...
This is like the whole incel chivalry bit I saw back in 2017, I think.
Tell her that she's...
Chivalry is dead. Chivalry is dead.
Holding doors open for women will only offend them. Tell me you have not met literally anybody on the face of the earth in real life without telling me you have never met anybody on the face of the earth in real life.
Doing a great job.
Tell me
we
without
love
telling
strong,
me.
Independent women. Next time you're driving her home, dropping her off, listen, we don't care if Shawty lives in the hood. Fellas, we can't forget she is a strong, independent woman. She can fend for herself. If someone tries to mug her, don't get out of your car. It's not safe out there. Let her handle it. She got this. Every time you drop Shawty off from now on, speed off as soon as she closes that car door.
I do think, no matter your gender, you should stick up for your friends if they're getting mugged. Like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Takes a couple steps onto the curb. We don't do this for ourselves. We do this in the name of equality. Know the game and play it well.
Yeah, the game is making a bunch of red meat for your incel audience and then grifting off of that for the rest of your life.
You have to eliminate beauty in your mind. The hottest girl in the world can be a horrible bad.
Then why are so many red pillars fixated on, you know, improving yourself, improving your quote-unquote SMV, getting 9s and 10s and 8.5s and all that shit? Why is that, Tristan? Why is that?
Backstabbing, money grabbing, gold
It's your entire brand, buddy.
bitch. Most dudes will stay with her. Oh, but she's so nice. What exactly is nice about her? When I'm trying to differentiate which kind of women I want to love and which women I want to...
I mean, she's kind, she has an endearing personality, she's charming in her ways and mature about how she works her charisma in different situations. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, when I describe somebody as nice, or even cool, because that's a better example, well, what is cool? I mean, you just know it when you see it. There's like kind of this badassery, but at the same time, that's tautologically defined. You just know it when you see it, right?
just sleep with. I usually close my eyes, think of what their qualities are. I wake up in the morning, she makes me coffee. My injured shoulder is playing up, she gives me a massage. She leaves her phone around unlocked, is respectful to my friends, cleans up my house, cooks my meals. If these things are adding up, then I'll usually turn it into something serious.
Man that makes $90,000 a year, or sugar daddy gives you
The massage. She leaves her phone around unlocked, is respectful to my friends, cleans up my house.
Leaves her phone unlocked? The fuck? Okay, I can get, cleans up around the house. Well, okay, if she's only the one doing all the cleaning, then, red flag on your part. Because I want relationships to be reciprocal, right? Like, I want us to be meeting in the middle sometimes. Like, you do have to work, I'll do have to work. We're a happy family, right? Leaves her phone unlocked? Yeah. Well, considering this guy is actively under criminal investigation for trafficking, it makes sense why he'd want girls to leave their phones unlocked. So
Cooks my meals. If these things are adding up, then I'll usually turn it into something serious.
man that makes $90,000 a year, or sugar daddy gives you $20,000 a month. Pick one.
Which sugar daddy?
Man that makes $90,000 a year, or sugar daddy gives you $20,000 a month. Pick one.
A sugar daddy.
Okay. What about you?
I'll do sugar daddy.
That depends on the dynamic of the relationship. Okay, with the sugar daddy, can I have a meaningful bond with him? Like, are we elucidating each other as people? Are we building upon each other's axioms? Are we challenging each other? Are we introducing each other to new concepts in life? Oh, there he is. There he is.
Hi.
What's up, my man?
Hey, what's good, man? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little bit like, scraggly. Like, there's a lot of muffling, but you're audible. You're generally fine. So, what you want to talk about today?
Well, I mean, she. So you can see it on the point that I called you out on Twitter, right? That you were asking the wrong question.
Um, in terms of like men wanting women, I guess with a lower body count in and of itself, like let me actually elucidate what you're saying about that. So, are you saying that I should expect men to have this primal, like visceral gut reaction to women having higher body counts when they say it?
I mean, that's literally the case for the longest, and to this day, men are usually repulsed by women with high body counts. Like that's not even something. I'm not even saying that that's something that should happen. I'm saying that that's something that happens.
Well, on a purely visceral level, like, yes, would I agree that most men are disgusted by women with high body counts? Yeah, 100%. Like, I'd say, vast majority, 80%. But what I want to tackle in this dialogue is why that is, especially in the 21st century. Like, obviously, I have that, visceral gut reaction in me, but I take a step back and say, well, okay, why do I feel that way? And then I just move past this whole like high body count thing when I actually analyze it from, a broader lens, right?
Yeah, and that's fair enough, right? But notice how like that, like what I guess what I'm saying is the question shouldn't be like there's a difference between why should body count matter or and why does body count matter in the sense to men, right? Like I cannot explain to you why I don't want to commit to a woman who has a high notch count. I cannot give you any reasonable justification where you say, you know what, that is 100% justified. I can give you an evolutionary reason. We can go into like the nature as to why that happens. But as far as the justification, that's like me, that's like a woman, right? We know that women tend to prefer men with higher amounts of resources, right? Like that's like both the left and the right would like agree on this. Like they disagree on like why. Like the environmental reason I think is something along the lines of women were never really able to own anything back in the day, so then they had to depend on men with higher resources in order to mate with them. And then the evolutionary reason being that, well, giving birth is costly as hell, meaning that they tend to prefer men with higher resources. Whatever that reason is, women tend to choose men with more money, basically. There's a hypergamous nature towards women. It would be ridiculous.
Wait, so do you want to move this discussion more towards the hypergamy debate, or do you want to focus on the aspects of like, oh, why men are disgusted with high body counts generally? Because obviously, like every red pill axiom plays into one another. But
We'll get to the body count soon.
oh, okay. So now do you want to discuss like hypergamy in this idea?
Like, I'm just bringing up hypergamy to point out that
Okay.
it would be ridiculous for me to go up to some random woman who's saying, okay, like if a woman says that a man has to have money, it would be ridiculous of me to go, well, can you tell me why that man has to have money? Can you tell me why he has to make over 600K? Rather than just accepting her standards for what her standards is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So in that same, yeah.
Yeah, like I would not want to date a chick who's broke. Or okay, I'm in terms of my financial situation now, I'm more lower middle class. But even as a leftist, I would not want to date a chick who's like 100% broke. Like she's having to live off of the generosity of others. She's on some sort of benefit because that woman. Well, okay, I should let's talk about like her specific inter-individualistic state and more talk about like the dating dynamic that's more like a confluence of us two as people. So
Wait a minute, one second. Are you gonna try to find a justification for why hypergamy may be justified, but not like purity preference? Or what is it? What is it called? The Madonna whore complex? Like, are you gonna justify hypergamy in a way where it doesn't apply to like the Madonna whore complex?
the Madonna horror complex.
That's what it's called when like men they like to have short-term relations with women with high body counts, but when it comes to like committing to a relationship, then they typically care about body counts. Like that's what the body
No,
count
no. Well,
thing
I can
really
fully
implies.
empathize with people not wanting to date people who are poorer than them. Like, because, okay, obviously in a relationship, you don't want an unbalanced power dynamic. Because let's say if I'm not a naive woman, I'm a very poor woman, but a very mentally mature woman, and I can spot what people are doing, like miles, or I guess years before it even happens. So take a mature woman who has that, sort of mindset, and a man who wants to marry her, but is much more richer than her, but wants to use his wealth for nefarious reasons. I could understand her not wanting to be in that scenario. You see the point I'm trying to make with this, whole wealth disparity sort of argument? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I don't want one person in that relationship holding all the freaking leverage. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of
hypothetically. Yeah, red pillars would definitely complain about this, because if I, as a poor man, married a very rich woman, wouldn't she have, like, more leeway in getting custody of the children? Wouldn't she have all the assets to provide them with? Wouldn't divorce courts be much more favorable to her because
she'd
I'm
have
earning
a-
so much less? Yeah, red pillars
she'd have a
would constantly make that point in that sort of, relationship, right?
and that's typically a feminist argument, like in critique of a woman wanting to be a housewife, for example. They say something along the lines of, you need to at least have a workable skill in case the man leaves you, so you don't like have to, you don't just fall on your ass. It's like a risky thing to be sort of a housewife. It's kind of the same thing us red pillars say. We're like, okay, you want to choose the right woman because you don't want to have to deal with the divorce court, you don't want to lose a kid, you don't want that alimony pressure on you, that sort of stuff. It's the same basic caution both like red pillars and feminists take, if we're being honest.
Well, Myron, okay. So, most red pillars, don't they want men to, build themselves up in terms of their wealth and marry hot chicks that don't have a lot of money? Like, when they say marrying up, don't they typically want... Well, actually, as a matter of fact, they probably wouldn't want men to get married anyway. But, like, haven't Myron and Walter advocated for people to, like, not marry, sorry, that's the wrong word, date chicks who are poorer than them, but are also, like, submissive? Because in typical red pill circles, I don't see this, whole confluence of the same economic classes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, fresh, like I wouldn't say they said that directly, but they usually say something along the lines of, men don't really care about how much money a woman makes. Men don't really care about their, like, in terms of like raw dating market strategy. If we were to like prioritize like superficial attributes about a woman, like their education and how much money they make wouldn't be up there. Things that would be up there is things like beauty, body count, um like masculine versus feminine energy, which is, it's kind of, that's kind of strange for me, because like the whole masculine feminine submissive thing, like that's the part where I'm kind of like, like I want my girl to be a human. I'm not trying to get a dog as my wife, you feel me? But like in general, like things such as like income and education, they would, for the woman's own sake, they would encourage that the woman get the education, the degrees that, and the skill to be able to make over 100K a year if she can. But to expect that men are gonna go out of their way for women like that, it's just not realistic. It's also part of the conservative argument where they're usually pointing out how women spend most of their youth when they're in the best position to lock down a quote unquote high value man to essentially get their career, and then once they're on that career, they're not able to see much men who are like, who meet their standards, because they're still going to want a man who makes more money than them, or at least make as much money as them.
Yeah, that's the whole thing here. Like, that's the whole dynamic. You're realizing it. Conservatives constantly get so frustrated about how women, especially in the 21st century, are pursuing careers. Now, most women nowadays are, getting married and having kids and being monogamous. Although, monogamy is on the rise. Monogamous women who get into heterosexual marriages are still the norm. A lot of them, might be fairly liberal in their politics and whatnot, but this whole not nuclear nuclear family dynamic, it does still happen. But the whole thing with women getting their careers and actually etching themselves a position economically in society is because so her spouse does not have 100% of the leverage. I think men are typically more educated than women. I mean, I'll have to fact check myself on that, but for the sake of this conversation,
like I said,
I think women are being pushed into education more, and they're being prioritized on college lists. But I think men more broadly. Let me Google this up.
Or maybe more broadly. I know in my community that the women in my community, and I'm talking about my race, yeah, they're like beating us by a landslide. That we're taking major L's.
Yeah, women. Okay, the shift in college-educated labor force as women now comprise in the majority comes around 4 decades after women surpassed men in the number of Americans earning a bachelor's degree in each year. So you were right about that. Yeah, I can't trust my intuition. That's why Google is a valuable resource. Praise those colorized letters. But yeah, to get back to the point about conservatives not liking this whole dynamic of women pursuing their careers, I feel that stems out of women not wanting their spouses to hold all the economic leverage in the relationship. Because when it comes down to power in relationships, obviously a great part of it is like on a psychological level and how good you can persuade somebody. But when it comes to divorce court and, especially when we're talking about the really touchy stuff, when it comes time for that, if I were to put myself into the shoes of a woman, would I really want my husband to have all the leverage in that relationship? Like, obviously it's a philosophical difference purely, but that whole imbalance, it's going to rub me the wrong way.
I mean, like that's an interesting point you bring up, because I'm thinking, if I was a woman, I wouldn't want my husband having all the resources and can throw me away at any given time, right? But remembering that I'm a man thinking right now, I'm also thinking to myself, I also wouldn't like to get fucked in my pussy. Like the thing. So it's like, could we really get like a good approximation on like what women want per se? Like, I'd say to watch the actions more than the words.
No, yeah, actions 100% speak louder than words. Like, you can communicate with somebody, and typically that's a good avenue for like finding out what people want. But I do agree that actions speak louder than words. Like, with the whole getting fucked in the pussy thing, are you talking about like cheating?
No, I'm talking about it in like a literal sense. But what I mean by that, what I was trying to get at is that men and women don't necessarily have the same desires. They don't necessarily have the same interests. You know what I mean? So I obviously don't have a pussy, but that's what I was trying to get to.
What do you mean by interests in terms of this dynamic when it comes to relationships? Like, what do you mean by interests? Do you mean goals? Do you mean hobbies? Or do you mean intentions? What is that?
I mean, like, goals and desires and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, between men and women, like, our desires are similar, but there are differences, right? Like, for example, the whole maiden thing. The reason why monogamy was a sort of compromise, from my layman's understanding, is because typically, like, if men really want, like, men would typically want to like go out there and multiply as much as possible, right? Choose the most beautiful women, have kids with them, go on to the next woman and be as polyamorous as possible. Whereas women want to choose the sort of best guy. So to avoid like both these natures like collapse in like society and whatnot, monogamy was created as an institution because you don't want like all the women only going after like the best guy, and then every other guy gets like frustrated and violent and etc.
I tangentially agree with that understanding. I feel like so long as you're speaking when it comes to like a purely primal level, I feel like men don't want to constantly get women pregnant, but just want to have sex. And the same thing for women. I think we do want to have sex, but we just don't want to be tied down. Now, where monogamy comes in is I think that as an institution reinforces the idea that parents, once they get pregnant, are actually committed to these kids. I mean, obviously, there's a financial element to that. There's like a restrictive element to monogamy. And I do believe that, if you're going to have a kid, you as parents must be held accountable. Now, in terms of what we want to do with our bodies viscerally, I think it's different from what monogamy proposes, but that's my hypothesis for why many people, tend to favor monogamy these days.
Like monogamy is not necessarily a natural. Well, you could say that it's a natural thing in some cases, but that gets a little deep into the to the bioessential rabbit hole. That gets into Edward Dutton territory.
Yeah, like in terms of being biologically non-monogamous, I don't think that's really the case. I think if we were just apes in a society, men would just be constantly, raping the women endlessly.
Yeah,
And, the relationship dynamic traditionally doesn't even apply in such a wild scenario. So that's why, I think monogamy has been preserved for as long as it has.
Mm-hmm. You were making a really like I believe that it got to a point like that you were calling me out for what you thought I was making as a naturalistic fallacy. Like I remember that you were tweeting to me and you said, "Well, I understand like people's primal, but we usually work through that to get rid of things such as rape, violence, and that sort of stuff." And yeah, that's why I mostly wanted to hop on Discord to like essentially clarify that I'm not making like I can't really make it into a moralistic statement. I can really only make it into like an observatory explanation type of thing.
Yeah, like if you were to say that men have a gut reaction to women with high body counts, I could fully empathize with that because that's even in me. And I'm constantly around a lot of women who have moderately high body counts, but that's probably just because my friends have the same politics as me and I live in a quasi-liberal area. But either way, like besides my personal life being, factored into this, obviously, men have the visceral disgusting reaction. However, once you like step back, analyze the situation for a minute, think to yourself, well, it's the 21st century. So long as you make, a decent income, you have a lot of means at your disposal, right? So like, there's the primal aspect in there, right? There's the gut reaction. 100%. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you analyze it, is it just that for you? Like, do you just not like it?
Yeah, I just don't like it. And I understand that there's going to be plenty of women out there. There's plenty of virgins out there. I get that. But I think this is where the crux of our disagreement is going to be. I feel like this is the crux that the red pill, that's a problem that the red pill mostly have with modern society. It's the fact that it seems that every expectation for women, it's being challenged, it's being quote unquote deconstructed, yet yet in reality men still have to meet their part of the bargain. They still have to meet their masculine roles even in times where it's getting harder and harder to do that. we're in a recession. There's not a lot of men who can like support a family financially on their own right now. So I feel like that's like the key like issue that that's the key thing that like sparks red pill rage, I would say.
But the people broadly contributing to that phenomenon is conservatives, right? Like, obviously, I don't want to pin the blame on a boogeyman. Well, that is, everyone's ideology at the end of the day. But in terms of who's reinforcing those gender roles, who's socializing men to be that way, is broadly conservatives. And these people, telling men, you've got to constantly provide, you've got to constantly fulfill your expectations to your woman, you've got to make, all the payments necessary. And I don't think that's good. Like, this whole hustle culture, I believe it destroys men on every possible conceivable level.
That's an adaptation though, because like meeting those masculine roles is literally how you're gonna attract a woman. Like, you're not gonna get a woman as a bum. Like, that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like no amount of body positivity is gonna get a 360-pound man to bag a baddie. Like, it's not gonna happen.
I'm a bit confused as to what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying.
So you're saying gender roles for women are being deconstructed, but not for men. I feel like for men, gender roles are being deconstructed. By left-leaning people broadly. What were you gonna say?
No, what I was saying is that gender roles aren't being challenged. So, for example, right? I went into the whole discussion of like, I brought up height in that tweet, for example. Like, even if like no woman on earth can come up with some rational reason as to why height should matter in terms of dating. Yeah, are you really gonna get women to stop spreading their legs for men who are tall? No, it's not gonna happen. Women are typically gonna prefer men who are at least taller than them.
Yeah, 100%. Women are definitely attracted to taller guys. I think they like confident short guys, but broadly, yes, taller guys would be the pick for women.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of what I think people should be attracted to, I just think people should get with who they like and who they know in their heart of hearts they think is, really attractive.
Okay. All right, I think there's a key compromise here. So back to the body count thing, right? So I think we really need to emphasize the same, like, rejection is not necessarily disrespect, okay? So as much critique, like, I can sit there and critique women with high body counts all I want. At the end of the day, I just don't want to date them. Most men don't want to date them, right? It's ridiculous to ask like for some type of rational justification, because then that's when the disrespect is gonna come out of nowhere. That's when like somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, you don't want to buy a used car for the price of a new car." Like, that's when it's gonna get kind of like heated. But so I think so this is not me like even trying to discourage women from exploring their sexuality. Do what you want. It's just it wouldn't be for me. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. And I don't think there's any debating you out of this position, because why does he not want to get with women who have high body count? Well, he just doesn't like it. Like, why do I, as a left-leaning person, not want to be with unintelligent women? Like, I don't know about you, but I love smart women. Or I'll definitely get with someone if they at least challenge me on a philosophical level. Like, they make me grow as a person. Do I want some, 500 IQ, omniverse brain woman? Well, okay, that's obviously an unrealistic standard. Like, you're typically not going to pick up a genius, because that's just people. They fall towards a certain mean. But why do I not like unintelligent women? Why do I not like being challenged? I guess I just don't like it. Like, and there's no debating me out of that position, because it's just what I feel. It's just my preference.
And notice how notice how again we can come up with a natural reason as to why you prefer smart women. Like, don't get me wrong, right? Like, not a lot of people go out of their way to say that they like their partners to be smart. But I mean, come on, is anybody going into the dating market and saying, "I want to bag me a dumbass"? No one is thinking that, right? So, so it's like,
You know JF Gary Epi? Don't answer that. That's for another time.
yeah, I
But
don't
yeah. Yeah, you were saying about dating dumb people.
like no one goes out of their way to say they want to date a dumb person. If you end up with a dumb person, you're probably gonna be like, he might be dumb, but he has a big heart. She might be dumb, but she cooks chicken pot pie really well or something. You're gonna like bring up some positive to make up for that like obvious negative.
Yeah. Get yourself a woman who can do both, preferably.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no binary between, cooking good chicken pot pies and being smart. Actually, I think there's, a positive association between those two things, culinary knowledge. But yeah, it's just fundamentally because I don't like it. Now, do I blame you for not, on a visceral level, not liking women with high body counts? No, I think that can be just, hardcore ingrained into some people. But
Yeah. No.
I guess I don't like how the red pill treats women with high body counts. Like, I don't think it's something that should be stigmatized, per se. But, there's no debating you out of this.
I mean,
And
most-
your preferences.
would you say that most men like don't like women with high body counts?
Most men would steer clear of women with high body counts because of, emotional baggage they might carry, possibly STDs, and possibly being, a baby mama in the future. But
Yeah.
we can analyze all those things in the 21st century.
Yeah,
You
so-
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like the stigma of promiscuity in women is probably gonna stay as long as that's the case. Just like how the stigma of being like a broke guy is gonna stay. Like let's be honest here. Like most people, like when we challenge it intellectually, we're not gonna say, "Oh, you suck because they're poor." But I mean, like, come on, right?
Yeah, that's why I fight against classism,
Uh,
I hate being poor, but I don't think anybody should be faulted for being in that scenario.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, it's like, and I think that's where we can like agree because like a woman being, I guess, for the streets doesn't mean that she's less of a person, doesn't mean that she's less of a human being. She deserves all the rights.
It doesn't actually mean she's for the streets. It
doesn't-
just means,
it
okay,
doesn't mean-
find yourself somebody else because, I, as a person, am not going to be into that. Or at the very least, I'm going to proceed with caution. But yeah, I guess you're just.
Yeah. Now I have an interesting question. Like, I'm interested. Like, what would you define as slut shaming?
Such, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd say on a general level, casting stigma and irrational hatred towards women who sleep around a lot. Like, obviously, that definition right off the top of my head might not be internally consistent. Like, it might not apply to every scenario, but that's just my baseline definition.
Yeah, like unless you're like a dedicated evangelical conservative who wants to, like evangelical Christian, I should say, who want to go out of their way to like bother people and annoy people, they're probably not gonna like go and then spew hatred towards like promiscuous women. In fact, many guys like promiscuous women, they just don't like committing to them, I should say, if anything.
Do I like women because they have body counts that are high? Not that in and of itself, but I like women who are experienced, who know what they're doing in terms of relationships, in terms of romance, in terms of what goes on in bed. So it's an issue of competency with me. I mean, it's a whole experience thing. Like, obviously, I'm assuming most people who I know Andrew Tate doesn't care about this because he purely believes it's a power dynamic, but most people who are left leaning or left adjacent want to have quality sex, good intimacy. Because I mean, you can clearly rank or tier the quality of how you're intimate. So I like people who are competent, right? Not high body counts in and of itself, but people who know what they're doing.
People who are experienced. That I'm interested. I am interested. So if you want a woman who knows what they're doing sexually, is that a requirement to you? Like, hypothetically speaking, if some virgin woman really liked you, would you be like, no, you need to get some XP first. You need to rack up some numbers first, Shadi. Like, would you say something like that?
No, just because somebody is a virgin, it doesn't mean that they're automatically gonna have bad sex. So, a virgin can definitely have a good time with you, and vice versa, so long as you communicate effectively. But the thing is, comparing virgins and experienced women or men or whoever we're talking about in this dynamic, it's going to be easier to communicate and to guide through the women with a lot of experience. With a virgin, it's obviously going to be harder, but you have to adapt, and that can be a good experience. But you know what I'm saying? It's an issue of communication and adapting.
Yeah, I think we're mostly in agreement with things. So to make this interesting, throw some shots. Some critiques of the red pill. Let me hear them.
Well, is there anything you would like to talk about, or you would take issue with in my philosophy? Because I don't get this whole hypergamy thing. What's another one? Like the 80-20 rule, or
the
in divorce court?
Just
do you believe in the core tenets of the red pill theories of hypergamy in general? I feel like most people date in their own league.
Now, I believe that the red pill massively exaggerates hypergamy, but I believe that hypergamy is absolutely a real thing. The one thing me and you might disagree, because a lot of leftists tend to favor the more environmental explanation for human behavior, whereas I favor the more biological explanation for human behavior. Both are technically true, don't get me wrong, but usually I like to look at something through dare I say I think it's a bioessential lens, so to speak. Yeah. I feel like that's why most leftists are uncomfortable with the red pill, so to speak, because we deal in saying, oh, this is female nature, oh, this is male nature, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of a biological thing, I'm not even sure if the whole dating up or dating down thing is even coherent, because obviously, okay, they think poor women date rich men, and that's dating up. But they also, on the other hand, say men care about women's looks, and they tend to date women who are hotter than them in their league. Well, okay, for the woman, isn't it dating up because she's, getting into a relationship with a man of higher status? But for the man, isn't it also dating up because she's more attractive than him? I think there are multiple different levels as to which this whole league thing works. And this whole dating up thing works. You know what I'm saying?
You're basically saying that men value beauty more, and then women value resources more.
I'm saying that's what they're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're saying. We're not there's no disagreement there.
I mean, it's been
don't get me
empirically
wrong.
proven that.
It's not as clear cut. It's more like a budget thing, right? So I'm about to apply some economics to a Marxist. This is gonna be fun. Trade-offs and stuff. The concept of marginal utility.
Yeah.
Basically, it goes something along the lines where essentially you value something, but as you get more and more of it, it eventually fades out and becomes devalued. So,
Yeah, diminishing
so
utility.
remember,
That's, I
so
think,
recall
what's
the wheat
referred to
waffles
as cardinal utility. Because like the whole pizza
cardinal.
example, yeah, about 3 slices of pizza for most people is good, but when you get 4 slices of pizza, you end up not liking it because it makes you really full to the point where it's uncomfortable, right? So the more and more you get of it, the more and more you're like, yeah, you might want to
Exactly.
hold back on that.
So recall the wheat waffles video I sent you, right, where it distinguished the red pill from the black pill from the blue pill, etc. Technically, the blue pill is correct in the sense that women prefer personality the most, but like unless you're like the most judgmental evangelical person, most, if not all, people have good personalities. Like, it's cheap to have great personality. Like, I promise you, the thousands of men that are like DMing a hot woman probably have a good personality. So even though it's important, we're not like they're not people are not going to prioritize that as much. Now things that are more rare, such as say someone who earns a high amount of money, or say beauty, for example, that's more hard to come by. Like unless you're in somewhere like Miami, you're not going to come across a lot of beautiful women. And likewise, unless you're like in a really rich part of a given place, you're not gonna come across a lot of rich people. The source I sent you, the one that I call an absolute gem, it actually goes into it where it demonstrates how women who are exposed to more well-earning men, they tend to start to pick other things such as looks, such as personality, such as like intelligence, that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
like,
essentially, like I think it's women who are accustomed to more economically privileged lifestyles, like more affluent people,
yeah,
tend to favor looks and personality and stuff like
yes.
that.
So as
Yeah.
one thing that, so interestingly enough, things become evened out as more people essentially have more of these superficial things, for example. So theoretically speaking, if every guy was like a 6'4", six-figure earning giga chad, then it would be all about personality, because now you're competing with so many high like status people that the whole like priority thing cancels out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, obviously, I do agree that it's a trade-off because if I'm around a lot of good-looking women, I'm probably going to prioritize, you know, finances as
Hmm.
something I'd want in a woman because, I already have an abundance of good-looking women. And
If you're
obviously,
around a
if,
bunch of
I'm in
intelligent
an
women,
affluent, yeah,
you're,
in an
yeah,
affluent area, but a place with moderately attractive women, obviously I'm going to, pick out the attractive ones. So I guess, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with that. Like, I definitely agree with this whole, like, trade-off dynamic. Yeah.
hmm, yeah. And then there's a lot of then I find that the left has a lot of problem with our sort of like market analysis, so to speak. So it's like one of the biggest critique is of the notion that we're making it more of like a trade-off thing. Like, are we like we're making relationships transactional, and I mean technically we're not doing that. We're more or less using a market sort of model to sort of analyze what's going on, because humans, we're great people, but at the end of the day we're more superficial than we like to admit.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it as this market exchange. Does it dehumanize people? Does it reduce people to just, your preference and what you like? Probably, but I think that's dating at the end of the day. It's just what you like in a person
Mhm.
and what they like in you, right? Like,
Right.
so this whole idea of a market, I think it's true for the most part.
Yeah.
I
Sweet.
think the term SMV, sexual marketplace value, kind of like implies this sort of quantitative, rigorous mathematical analysis that's affected by, socioeconomic factors. But it's just, at the end of the day, what you prefer in people,
Yeah.
you know?
We we can apply mathematical models to it and then hope that it reflects reality more and more. But at the end of the day, we're unpredictable creatures. Like that's
Yeah, I
the
definitely
greatest,
agree with that.
like that's the greatest critique to Marxism, if anything. Like we're unpredictable creatures. So it's like so um so that's the red pill is more or less more methodological. So it's like not every guy there are gonna like care about body counts or wanting a trad wife. Not every guy there is gonna be like super rage filled against women. That's mainly the like the mainstream red pill. I feel like if you really want to like dive into like red pill philosophy, I think you should check out this guy named Red Hawk, I believe. Let me look him up real quick. I think he'll
Red
give you a
Hawk.
more like, yeah, I think that's his name. Let me check. Like, I only know his like content through like, I only came across like this guy's through the distributist because they were having like a conversation about what would like a post-sexual revolution society look like.
Post-sexual revolution society. Okay, that could be interesting. Are there any other like general contentions you have with, I guess, my form of leftism or anything?
Um, well, I mean, me personally, like I'm more in the line of questioning whether this sort of freeing up sexual norms is like whether it will work. Like for example, could polyamorous relationships could polyamory as like an unstigmatized thing exist in the same world as a monogamous society? Could monogamy and polygamy exist at the same time? I guess my question is,
Exist at the same time, like
yeah,
have a functioning society and have people
both of those
in
are
it
things that
that are present in that
yeah,
society.
both people essentially. Yeah, both people who just they live and let live be and they do their own thing. I do think that's something that could really work
Yeah,
because
I think.
like in a society where polyamory is allowed, like most men are just gonna want to be polyamorous, right? Like most men don't have any real interest to settle down in a relationship if like not many men are gonna be interested in committing to a woman if there's plenty of women who will just have casual sex.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel well. I actually don't know the figures on what percentage of men prefer monogamy to polyamory, um, or what percentage of men prefer to not even date at all and just have well,
So
not get married at all, but have casual dating sort of relationships like me.
admittedly,
But
admi-
yeah, like I feel like a society in which different people just do their own things and it's all adults and it's consensual and there's no weird real power dynamic in it. I think that'd be fine for society.
but that's the thing, right? Isn't power dynamics like inevitable?
Yeah, we're not talking
A lot
about
of
like we're not talking about like one person makes $10,000 more than the other or nonsense. Like I'm talking consenting adults who know what they're getting into, right?
like for example, right? In the like we're living in a time where like women on social media, good looking women on social media, they get like plenty of attention from plenty of desperate guys, right? So in a like let's say that there's a relationship where she's making her own money, the guy's making their own money. Wouldn't there be a power dynamic that favors the women more since she literally have more options than the guy?
In terms of getting him to date her, yeah.
In terms of the relationship in general, like let's say they're already in the relationship, right? Any
Mhm.
sort of any sort of disagreement or whatever she could essentially use that against him. Like she could have way less tolerance for any mistakes he may make in the relationship on the pure fact that she has plenty more options. In fact, the red pill goes
Yeah.
out of its way to teach men to do this, to essentially tell a woman that they have multiple options of other women to sort of keep them in line. And a lot of that is because that's sort of the leverage like your average woman is gonna have thanks to social media. So isn't like power dynamics more or less an inevitable thing, and we kind of have to we
Well,
can't like
okay.
be too cautious about it.
Isn't that because men's standards are higher? Like
Men's
the red
men's
pill.
standards
Okay.
being lower. You mean?
No, 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 no. So long as you're saying men typically date attractive women, like,
Mhm.
okay, most guys want women that at least an 8 all the way up to a 10, right? You'd say that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I feel like the reason women have so many more options is because guys are a lot more restrictive in what they want. So, like, you are actively pursuing these top tier women, like 8s and 10s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that why they have, so many options? Because I guess,
That's also
okay,
that's also why the rich man has leverage. That's also
yeah.
the reason why he has the power dynamic in favor of him against the women.
Yeah, I do agree. Like these whole like power dynamics are eventually inevitable, but the whole problem is people manipulating it to use it for nefarious purposes. I don't think this broadly happens in relationships because I fundamentally think most people are decent, upstanding, moral citizens.
Yeah,
But
given any ideology, any culture, any like system we put in place, there's always gonna be people who's gonna abuse it. There's gonna be people who abuse the functions of capitalism. There's gonna be people who abuse the function of communism. It doesn't matter what sort of standards we set. There's always gonna be those people that are essentially irredeemable, right?
mm,
So I guess I guess like could we really challenge a given system based on like the few people who are gonna like mess it up for everybody? In a way, yes, but like how much should we scrutinize that really? And then my sort of question to the left would be like what sort of like what sort of system do you think would make it better? So for example, like women, like the left mostly challenged the idea of men and women being like in a set gender role in a monogamous relationship, housewife, hardworking man, etc., etc. The left has challenged that, advocated for more women to be in the workforce, etc., and a more equalizing sort of thing. But you really have to ask yourself, have things gotten better? Like, has the relationship between men and women sort of improved as a result of that?
improved
Yeah.
in terms of like being on a more equal playing field, like being more egalitarian
Are more
and being able to.
are more people happy with the dating world?
No. But I just think the reason most people are unhappy with the dating world is because of people's preferences for what they want in partners. Like I think people might be a bit more restrictive. If I don't know if that's coming out right, but I think if people want people who are in high tier leagues, who obviously have high standards in and of themselves, they must meet that standard. Okay, I don't know if you saw this video on my channel, but do you remember when me and Omar covered The Beast?
The Beast? No. The only one I've watched was the one where you said like the red pill is poisoning young men.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I don't know if you want to react to this right now because the video in and of itself is like half an hour, but essentially there was this OG lolcow back in the day on the Drunken Peasants and Leafy is Here's YouTube channel, and what he did was he called on women to lower their standards. And keep in mind, this guy is this, like, just fat, repulsive fuck who just constantly repeats himself, constantly like holds double standards, and is really socially maladapted. But from the vibe we got from him, it doesn't seem like he wants to improve himself to meet their standards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, would it be optimal for people to just lower their standards? I don't know. I want people getting into the relationships that they want. Something that's constructive, something that's healthy for them in the long term. So
I would also add that they should be like realistic about it.
The Beast was far from realistic. The Beast was far from realistic because he wanted these high tier women, but wasn't willing to make himself into an 8 or a 9 or a 10 to get their attention. He was just wanting them to just come after him, for him to do no improvement whatsoever. So, is the table tilted and is the game rigged for people to just like have high standards and just wait to wait for people who are in their league to come to them? Maybe, sure. I guess I'd say it's that way if I was really pressed on the matter. But in terms of the current landscape, you've got to meet their standards if you want their attention. Say if you're a guy who's, a 7, right? Are you really going to get the attention of 8s or 9s or 10s by just sitting there and doing what you're doing and being how you are? Or are you going to get their attention by working on yourself, improving yourself? Socially adjusting yourself, maturing.
That is a broke boy. No, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, yeah, this is why I support stuff like a welfare state. Giving people ubiquitous access to education. So, let's say a guy doesn't want to do anything with his career. He has the means to, and he has the means to improve himself and work on his social skills and just better himself as a person. But he doesn't take that route. He's a 7, but he doesn't, consider that option. He's not willing to do that. He just wants attractive women to flock to him, right? Do you think it's his fault for not meeting their standards?
Yeah, it's absolutely his fault. Yeah, but a lot of guys know from the get-go that we're gonna have to improve ourselves, work on ourselves in order to attract women. Now, the interesting thing is, I feel sort of bad for women in this sense because, like, like you watch a Fresh and Fit show, right? And most of them are like surprised at like what men like want in a relationship. Like, for example, right? Like the whole, like, essentially they get so much attention from even like high value guys, but they then get shocked when the guy don't want to like stay with them or something of that sort. So, like fat women, for example, I know plenty of fat women who like they don't quite understand that they need to lose weight in order to keep a guy because there's plenty of guys who would still bang them.
Same thing with the Beast. I'm pretty sure the Beast wants a long-term committed relationship, but he was really unattractive, he was really overweight, and I hated his personality. Like, I really want you and I to go over a Beast video one of these days, because he has all the red pill and black pill incel talking points, but his fundamental problem is that he doesn't understand when he wants these top-tier girls to flock to him, he has to meet their standards first. I think some red pillers realize this truth, that you have to like meet people in the middle, but he doesn't. He clearly doesn't.
I don't want to.
You think that's his fault?
like I'd call that copium. Like I don't want to commit a no true Scotsman fallacy, but like broadly speaking, like not even the black pill supports like bitter inceldom. You know what I mean? Like not even the black pill would
Yeah,
support.
yeah.
They would support things such as like looks maxing, um, improving or geomaxing or something along the line. But not even the black pill would have this like visceral anger towards women. Um, I guess I guess like my views on the whole dating market thing is I don't exactly blame women. In fact, in a lot of scenarios, I feel bad for women because it seems like they're in a very they're in a very difficult predicament, so to speak. And
100%.
yeah, because because a lot of what's happening, like if we're to be childish about it, men kind of started it. Like um I believe during like the sexual revolution, like men just saw less need to like commit to a woman, and women essentially adapted. They were pretty much like, okay, so if no guys want to stay or like be in a committed relationship with me, I might as well improve my standards because if they're not gonna stick around or whatnot, I might as well like go after the guys I'm attracted to, and that's when their hypergamy comes into play, and things just have been going downhill from there.
Well, no, yeah, I think people have got to realize really attractive people can afford to date people who are in their league. Like they can afford to dispense with these 6 and these 5s and these 7s. Okay, so okay, obviously, Fresh and Fit, they complain about, women having a lot of options and a lot of preferences. But do you think they're not styling their hair every day? Do you not think they're putting highlights in their hair and curling it and putting on makeup and wearing the most flattering outfits and working on themselves in terms of their personality? Do you not think you're doing all these things? Like, okay, let's say you're a 7 now and you want to date a 9 or a 10, right? Are you going to get a fresh haircut? Are you going to shave regularly to the point where it looks good? Are you going to work on your riz? Are you going to have better outfits? Are you going to like get social cues better? And are you going to be confident in the new self you've made? Like,
Yeah.
so you've definitely got to meet people at the middle if you want those really attractive people. If their standards are high and your standards, if their standards are high, just meet them in the middle.
You need to meet those standards.
Yeah, you definitely need to meet those standards.
Um,
I don't know if you want to react to this now, but like this is the epitome of a guy who used the incel talking points, but just doesn't understand the fundamental criticisms of it to the point where he can't get himself into a better place. So let's just the OG locale. So I guess this is going to be another rant on girls and women and shit. He's slow, so let's speed it up.
What's up, people? This is Pimpin' Joe with Joe's Real Rants, and this is, like I said in my other video that was 21 minutes long. These are real rants. These aren't comedic in any way, and I was never meant to be a comedian.
Watching you stumble over yourself is very funny.
To be a serious ranter.
Who could ever take you seriously?
So there's going to be some parts of this rant
Oh,
that are
really?
gonna be a little
1.5x.
but
Wait, what'd you say?
I already think this is an act. Like, I already think that he's just trolling. Like, it's hard to believe actual people like this exist. It might be
Like-
true. It might be true, but like,
From private messages that have been leaked with him, like it does seem like he's genuine. Obviously, in the end, there's no way of knowing, but I do think he's genuine. Let's just hear his criticisms, because the thing is, he does use red pill talking points, but doesn't see the broader picture.
still going to be a little furious because this topic, it really does piss me off. And I know it's a topic that we all can relate to.
Shoot.
Relationships and girls is my rant. This topic, it's a topic that really does infuriate me, and it makes me a little furious, and it makes me want to give my opinions on it and what I think should.
We know that because you're sitting in front of the camera and ranting.
Relationships and all that stuff, and maybe a little bit of other things too. Hold on. I'm
What?
sorry for that. Just checking if my eyes were a little red. They shouldn't be. I'm not high, so just don't do anything. Anyways,
I don't care if you are.
Here we go. I know that.
God, his videos are typically more interesting than this. Like, get a move on, man.
The epitome of a relationship, but there are some things that really bug me. Like, okay, I've never had a girlfriend all my life. Yeah, and it's bothering me now. Since I'm 20
We know,
years
we can
old.
see that.
My birthday was like 3 days ago. 22nd, 21st, 20th. Yeah, so, it's like this. Girls are pickier than guys.
See, there it
The
is.
only thing that I'm really picky on is the type of girl I want, which is a hot, sexy girl. But I don't want sex on the first date, or anything like that for that matter. No, I am a nice guy, and I won't stop being a nice guy. The thing is that girls, those types of girls that I want, they lack things that
A
I want
unique
them to have.
position to hold. I also like attractive
Like-
girls.
A great personality. I mean, I don't just want a smoking hot body. Not a model body,
As do
not
most
a
men.
model skinny body, but a smoking hot one. I like the hotties. I like the girls, the hot girls. You know what I mean?
You've said
but
that.
They lack personality. They lack it, and they should know better than to go out with bad guys. They should know better to go out with good guys, because good guys are better than bad guys. Yes, you might think.
Yeah, that's what
not
being
the red
good
pill.
in and of itself is. Wait, what'd you say?
No way that's the red pill. No. No. There's no way.
He's an incel. He uses some of the talking points. Like, okay, I'll send you a video later
Yeah,
in which he uses a lot of the talking points. He just doesn't see the broader picture, man. Like
Girls that
there's no way. There's no way. There's no like we laugh at nice guys. The minute he said I'm a nice, I'm like, yeah, no, ain't no way, bro.
us guys, like me for example, are too nice.
ugh.
But to me, there is no such thing as too nice. No such thing at all. Like,
I think it can get to a point to where you're just straight up sycophantic and servile. But you know, obviously, you've got to mediate these things. You've got to balance them.
people, you know, girls, if I had a hot girl in a relationship, she would think I'm too nice or think I'm a pussy. Girls, listen. I have self-confidence, but I'm a nice guy, and I don't want to stop being that way.
Okay.
If you would listen to me, you would know that getting a nicer guy, a good guy that can look after you, is better than having a bad guy or an asshole, someone challenging or exciting. You got to grow up, girls. Grow up.
Okay,
I mean,
many
stop
people
going on
like
with
good
those-
guys.
With those guys that are really, really bad. I mean, what's happened to this society of girls going out?
We're a
with
failed
good-
society.
What happened to that?
Sound familiar?
I mean, it should be
sounds
still
like-
happening.
Pause it
And-
real quick. He sounds like a frustrated beta. And
You know
I'm not-
what? I don't like grouping people into these alpha beta terms, but yes,
I'm
he
not-
does sound like a man who's frustrated and
My
lacks
guy-
confidence.
My guy, I promise you, 2023 is the year of being a beta. I myself am a certified beta. I went to college for this shit, but he sounds like a frustrated beta. Like, to offer some empathy to him, he sounds like he was at the point where most guys were at, because like, here's the thing, right? Most of us were raised by our moms only, and the typical woman advice on how to attract a woman is be nice, be kind, give her compliments, this, that, and the third. When you actually try to date women, you quickly realize that is not the case.
Well,
at all.
no, don't be a servile and sycophantic nice guy. Be a genuinely nice person, but obviously have a fun and engaging personality. And I think, the pussy will come to you. But
Like,
if you are servile and sycophantic and too nice, then, it almost seems like something purely reciprocal instead of something that you're supposed to go like down a path on. Just don't be too nice, right?
See, that's the thing. See, that's the thing about men in that's the thing about men and women, right? Like it seems that in a weird way, men are more like results and consequential. Like we're more results driven than men. So when you tell us to be nice, we're pretty much hearing, okay, here's the strategy, be nice. It's not necessarily a matter of, oh, in general, you should be nice. Because if you're telling me in general that I should be a nice person, be kind to everyone, that's a whole different thing other than saying, hey, mom, how do I get a girl? Oh, be nice, be sweet, compliment her often, that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So I believe that the frustration comes from using a strategy that clearly doesn't work. And this is not me blaming the women either, because women, like when women give advice on dating, at best, their advice they're good practices. They're not necessarily strategic things you can do to actually attract the woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that's true to some extent.
Like,
Oh, I should let you know I do have to go at 7:35, so we'll just converse and we'll watch a little bit of this video, just for a few more minutes.
yeah,
So
for sure.
just to let you know.
Hmm.
I know, and it's not my fault in any way that I like hot girls, hot ones, and I mean
You
hot
shouldn't be
ones.
faulted
Not
for that.
BBWs, not
Pause it
not
again.
below average.
And right there, he doesn't understand that it's not their fault why they don't want a fat man. Body positivity is not gonna save you, my guy. So yeah, that really just comes from a matter of frustration. Um, like honestly, I think the solution would be like women being more honest about their superficial desires. Like a lot of men get like angry at that one chick who's just like, oh, he gotta be 6 feet tall. Like I actually love when women are honest in that sense. Like even when it's something out of the guy's control, because I feel like that happens more. Like if that happens more and more, guys can have a more understanding of how to actually attract the opposite sex. And the same thing with men. Men should like let their standards be known there and clear and not just go with it just because they want sex out of the woman. They need to like set standards for specifically the women who they want to commit to. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like, I think people should be forthcoming with what they want in people.
I mean, the above average girls, above average, not, you know what I mean. And I know I'm picky on that one thing, but that's not all I want. Really, that's not all. You girls gotta realize that I am a guy that
I'm
is nice
blissfully aware of that.
to the point where I don't have to be an asshole just to get a girlfriend, or just to meet up with one and go out with one and probably marry one in the future.
Then why hasn't this nice guy got a girlfriend in his
This
life?
is another thing after lacking.
You notice
Staying
how-
with the nice guy and getting married.
you notice how I said unless like you're a super judgmental person, most people have good personalities. Like
Yeah.
he's put in so much investment in, like if he just acted like a normal person, if he essentially treated a woman like just another human being, he'd probably get a lot farther. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like you're investing too much in a resource that you already have, right? So that's like telling a millionaire in order to attract a woman, he has to become a billionaire. Like, yeah, it's gonna help, but it's not gonna do too much. Like, it's already been saturated. The marginal utility has been realized. So, yeah, it's 7:35 where I'm at. It seems like it's time for you to go.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind this whole marginal utility concept, but it seems like we did have a fruitful discussion. We disagreed on a few things, agreed on a lot of things, most of the things. But yeah, I think this was really constructive. Thank you very much for coming out here to talk with me and to be a good advocate for the red pill and to just the beast and to talk with me.
Yeah, the guy's name is Red Hawk. That's his name.
Red Hawk.
Like, I'm not trying to diss Fresh and Fit or anything, but like watching Fresh and Fit for Red Pill philosophy is the same thing as like watching Bosch for communism. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you got to monitor your sources. I don't think Myron and Walter are good advocates, but That's that. I got nothing else to say here.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Yeah, take care.